You don't want to be having to take 10, 15, 20 years to reach your ideal state, to then get a transactional relationship and to then get a girl who not really interested in you more than a fling, or never even meet your status max goal or your looks max goal. And you just realize that you waste your 20s, you waste your 30s, and then there are majority of women single out there, majority of women saying that they've never been approached and they wish men would approach and talk to them more. Stop treating all female attention and stop aiming to get fake attention from females, because that fake attention, it might feel like is the only attention that you could get. That is not what the purpose of life is, not for just finding something fake with somebody and hooking up out of a transactional relationship. Guys should more aim to get with the girls that not wanting to have a transactional relationship, that looking to get something real. So you all do know that there is a big difference in the interest a female could show to a guy, not based on how much and how little, but based on what category of interest she shows in the guy. We're not talking about quantity here, we're talking about category, right? And basically, the category of interest that a female shows a male is based on the category of value that he brings to the table, right? So, for example, there is the category of value that a man brings to the table with regards to his status. And there's the category of value that a man brings to the table in regards to his looks. Because a man could have high status and zero looks. A man could have high looks and zero money. And then there's a category of value that a man brings to the table with regards to the substance, right? And a lot of guys get faked out into thinking that any interest from female is good interest and all interests are the same. But it's very different, especially in terms of how long they last, how stable they are, and understanding how long they last and how stable they are and what category of interest you getting from the female is really important to understand how the relationship would unfold, so that you don't get faked out and you don't get blindsided when something pops out of the blue and you think she is acting really weird. I'll give an example. So with the male value of status, right, this typically is a guy getting by. We assuming here, when we're talking about the category of value that he coming with too, you're assuming that is only this particular value that he's coming with at the moment. There's no mix of it, right? So we're talking about in the case that he only comes with status. If a guy only comes with status as his value, right, he basically using something like his resources, his car, his position of authority, and the type of interest that he would get from a female in this case is not genuine attraction, but females would show, not all females, a minority of females would show a lot of intention and interest towards him. But this interest that comes from status is a stage form of indicator of interest. The old school forums, they used to call this a tactical indicator of interest or a tactical IOI, where the girl is pretending she is interested in you because she is after what props you have, what lifestyle you could give her, and what resources you have that she could take advantage of. She is interested in the resources, not you. But as men, even though the song's really bad, and it songs as though, well, no, she really not into me, she into the resources, a lot of guys cool with that, because they would say, well, she likes the BMW, and that's why I buy that, because I didn't buy that to impress man, I buy that to impress girls. And if she likes the BMW, then it's because I have a BMW and I don't have a BMW. It's because I have a BMW and she likes that, then I get in the girl. But the type of female that will go for a guy solely because of that, two things could happen. One is that they could monkey branch offer you to a guy with something better, because that was never real in the first place. You never established anything real. You didn't care for anything real. So you can't get blindsided by that, and you can't get angry when that happens. And two, that could be very fickle and temporary if you lose that. And on the contrary, if you could give her that all the time and you could always keep upgrading your car and your lifestyle and keep giving her standard to a higher and higher level or even maintaining a really high standard, she would, in theory, if the lady is up to that, she would be interested in staying with you forever. But you have to be okay with understanding she doesn't like you for what you are, who you are. It is what you have. And then the next category of interest that a girl would show a guy now, that one is the tactical stage one, right? The completely fake one. The next one is real, but it is based on looks and aesthetics and maybe muscles and maybe a temporary fleeting state where you were in the club and the place was dark and music was playing and she was slightly intoxicated. These types of interest based on visual spark and stuff like that, they are real, but they don't last forever. If a guy only bringing his body as he thing to the table, his looks, and he has nothing else to back it up, you might get some attention now and things might run good now, but that type of thing would last. That is the most temporary of all the types of interests. Girls are not wired historically, because in the status game from thousands and hundreds of years, thousands of years, millions of years before, girls, women depended on men before, feminism and women in the workforce and women being even more educated than men now. For thousands of years, that was the norm. So that could happen, but it was never the norm where a man aesthetics and men, doing the looks max thing and making sure that they're under 20% body fat, 15% body fat, 10% body fat, making sure that they work on their rear delts and the lats and they have this percent of muscle mass and they groom and they do the jaw thing to make themselves better looking. And that was never the norm, where a male beauty is something that females choose on and we'll say females choose and hold on to that as though men are the prize and they choose the most beautiful man. Men typically are not the prize. Men are typically the person who's supposed to be the bravest, most suited for them by things that they could provide, and being the leader of men, the strong man, the man that could get her going based on who he is and how she admire his traits and the common value they share. And this brings me to the other one. The other one, the last one, is the male value, the type of male value that is to do with substance. Substance typically give you a sustained, longer lasting and real interest from a female. Typically in the past, substance has been, so if status is like hypergamy, substance is what you call endogamy, where based on culture and religion and common family structure and moral backgrounds and stuff, people will feel as though they are compatible naturally. And they would be somebody that you could hook up with and get married and live forever with as your partner, even though that person mightn't be the wealthiest person, the best looking person. That type of relationship is called endogamy, right? Getting married with cultural context and not with the person who have the most money, like hypergamy. But with endogamy now, as you know, in the Western world, a lot of society, especially if you most likely are a single man, you might not be in a house or from a background with strong cultural context and religion, and your family might say they're religious, but they mightn't be so religious, and you mightn't be doing the hook up with a girl thing from church and the hook up with a girl thing from the temple and the mosque and stuff. You might just be looking for a girl who has secular world beliefs and a girl just like you who comes from a similar kind of secular background. And this is still possible. This type of substance, male value, is still possible. But you have to meet the girl. You have to come in with her. You can't really do this from a friend zone point of view, where a girl is your friend and they now start to share interests and it start to make her feel like, we're finally compatible. Some people done that and that worked for some people, but I think that is kind of wild and weird. I think you should really meet somebody fresh by going in, either meeting her through cold approach or through like mutual friends or something like that, give a good first impression so that she doesn't take you from like the friend zone into a romantic interest, and show her that you are somebody that she has common stuff with, that you can make her laugh, that you all have common goals, a common belief system, that she likes the way how you make her feel, and that she feels like you are a leader and that you all vibe good together and you all are comfortable together. That type of male value there, where you could bond with somebody, it hits mentally and cognitively, and it is based on your behavior, and that gives you a sustained indicator of interest from the female. And that is what, so endogamy did that for thousands of years, and actually endogamy and culture and religion, those things are actually in the same value chain. That in the old school community they taught as game, pick up artistry. Endogamy, religion, and culture is actually in the same type of interest as game. Game is not typically, is not at all, is not looks maxing, and is not status maxing. It is just trying to meet. I know some people take game and use it to like get really good at it and use it to like hook up with random women and have a lot of women. But I don't think game should have ever been used like that. I think game should be for guys. It started with guys who were really good at their jobs, might be like a computer programmer and might not understand how to meet women, and it just taught him some social dynamics and some ways in which women think, so he'd be better prepared to communicate with her and now build a connection with her of common shared values, so that they both could get married and he could make something real with her, instead of him relying on telling her, hey girl, like I have this Benz and you should like me because of this Benz and this car. Game is just teaching you how to bond with somebody better upon the meet, so that you don't have to always bring up the Benz in the first conversation and hope to get a girl to choose you based on what you have. You in turn trying to meet a girl and share something real. And if you happen to have a Benz, if you happen to have a Mazda, Toyota, doesn't matter, because you establish something real. That is basically the three types of female interests. The tactical one, fake, based on your status. The fleeting one, based on spark, chemistry, things that you feel in the gut, but temporary, because it's not something that could sustain permanent with girls, because girls always want something more. And if there's a guy that only have that and you never try to move away to make something better with her, that's real, to have a common interest, she's going to get bored, and she's either going to go for a guy with the status or with the common interests to settle down long term with. And then you have the real one, which is the substance one, that gives you a sustained category of indicator of interest. So in all, we need to stop treating all female attention and stop aiming to get fake attention from females, because that fake attention, it might feel like is the only attention that you could get, but that is not what the purpose of life is. Not for just finding something fake with somebody and hooking up out of a transactional relationship. Guys should more aim to get with the girls that not wanting to have a transactional relationship, that looking to get something real. But it might be harder, because trying to get somebody who don't want a transactional relationship might mean that you have to face up to some things about yourself, like other than you not having enough money, other than you not having enough muscles or low body fat percentage, it might mean that you have some inner working to do on your psychology and your personality and your character. And that is something that, although harder to face up to, is actually quicker to do and easier to do. It's easier to change a few things in your social skills and your understanding of social dynamics than it is to try to get $5 million, $1 million, than it is to try to put on 40 pounds of muscle and lose 20 pounds of fat. Because that muscle fat thing could take really long, and that $1 million thing could take really, really long. And you don't want to be having to take 10, 15, 20 years to reach your ideal state, to then get a transactional relationship, and to then get a girl who's not really interested in you more than a fling, or never even meet your status max goal or your looks max goal. And you just realize that you waste your 20s, you waste your 30s, and then there are majority of women single out there, majority of women saying that they've never been approached, and the rich men would approach and talk to them more. So it's just something to reconsider. Stop considering all indicators of interest as the same, and start looking to build something with a more real male value chain, so that you can get a more real female indicator of interest.